All right. I'd like to give it to 12:05, but we're basically there. So let me pull up the presentation and we will begin. All right, hope everyone can see it all right. Let's get my notes out here. Okay, so welcome everybody. Hope you all had a good weekend, and I hope everyone's happy again about the improved weather, and I know I am. So this is the March Roundtable meeting. Last time we met was earlier in the month to talk about the North Ave RFP, and I'm going to spend a decent amount of time talking about that today. Since we last spoke, you know, myself and the consultant team and DPD in general, you know, been hard at work trying to see, you know, what's feasible and if we can achieve sort of the vision and some of the priorities that were discussed earlier in March. And you know, some good news is that I believe we can. So you know, we'll get to that. But at the start, we want to give some department updates on the NOF program, which is now active, and some other updates, and then we'll kind of jump right in with both our feet to the RFP and discuss our next steps and where we intend to take this. Thank you for everyone who is here on the line from the community, and I appreciate your time and dedication to date. And you know, we have some of our consultant team here today listening in just to make sure that you know, they hear you too. You know, as again, what I think our primary focus now is developing that RFP. And if you were wondering, here are the folks there. So anyhow, without further ado, Mary, a colleague of mine, is going to give a quick update on NOF.
Morning, everybody. So we'll jump right in. The Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, which I think probably most of you are familiar with. You can flip to the next slide, Mike. It is now open. And our deadline is, I think it's on slides, I believe it's April 9th. So it's coming right up. You mind keep flipping? I think there's like a lot of, okay, here we go. So what is the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund? Just as a refresher, it's small business grants that go up. Next slide, please.
Sorry about that. I froze. I don't know about anybody else, but hold on a second. Yeah.
So the first thing you want to do is to check your eligibility, and our website is there, chicago.gov/NOF. And you could put your address in, and you want to make sure that it's in the QIA, and that is a qualified investment area. And then the project also needs to be located on one of the corridors. So we have eligible, priority, and invest Southwest. Eligible is kind of our baseline, gotta be on one of those corridors to be eligible, and then priority gets a little bit more priority in our application process. Invest Southwest has the most weight in our process. Next slide, please. And who is eligible for NOF? Property owners, you could be a landlord or a tenant. If you're a landlord, you have to show that there's a business that's going to be in your space, like through an LOI or a lease. You could also be a tenant and just need to show that the landlord is okay with the work. Nonprofit organizations are eligible as long as they're in that qualified investment area. And the nonprofit organizations need to be doing some kind of commercial activity, like running a store, or, you know, they have a theater and they're charging money for tickets, that type of thing. Next slide, please. So we have the small grants track that goes up to 250,000. For large grants over 250,000, I think we have some contact information on the last slide. So encourage you to reach out to the large grants team for any questions about that. I can answer questions, of course, about the small grants. And it's for expansion or renovation of businesses. It could be a new location. We also cover new construction. We could pay for almost any type of renovation project or new construction, you know, all of the, you know, mechanical, HVAC, roofs, that type of thing. If it's a very small project, it's probably not going to be strong enough to get through. It's very competitive in our application process. We also can't cover residential or building code violations and operating expenses for the business, unfortunately. But most renovation projects are going to be eligible. And then our technical assistance program, we have lending coaches, architects, and construction managers, with a big emphasis on design. So we have over 40 coaches in our program that the grantees can choose from, and that the budget for that goes on top of the grant, up to the $250,000. We also help people through our grantees through the city processes, which, you know, can be difficult, and we help them with marketing as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is the contact information for small grants and also large grants, and our website is here. So encourage folks to apply if they have a project, and hopefully get a lot of good projects from the North Avenue area. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mary. And just to the spirit of competition, my understanding is a lot of NOFs currently come in on the, I don't know, how's the West region doing? Do you know?
I usually run my report on Monday, but like last Monday, I think we had maybe 5 or 6 applications total. So I don't know that any of them are from the area. We usually get like over 50%, maybe even 60, 70% of our applications at the very last day.
Okay.
So
sounds like me. Get the work done right at the last minute.
Yeah, and this is kind of interesting. The ones that apply on the last day seem to have a better chance of getting selected. I don't know why, but
okay.
there's no advantage in our process. It's just like I just noticed that a lot of the ones that applied on the last day got selected.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since we're the North Avenue corridor, are you competing across the whole city against others, or are you competing against your folks that put in applications for the corridor?
Sure. So it's not the whole city, but it is the south, southwest, and west sides, just within the QIA. Yeah.
Qualified investment areas.
Yeah, qualified investment area.
I have a question, Mary, and I don't know. I know like the NOF is open now, and then the SBIF deadline is March 31st. So if you compare those two, what do you recommend for a business that has been, you know, like let's say they're not thinking about acquisition, or they're just a business that want to remodel? Which one will you apply for? I mean, both, but which one has more chances?
Mike can probably chime in on this. I think, well, I know that you can't have an active SPIF and NOF at the same time. You could apply for both, but you can't have both at the same time. I think SPIF is, the funding limit is lower. So I think it's, you know, more, if it's a larger project, then you're going to want to go to NOF. SPIF won't cover it. And I'm trying to think if there's any other differences. I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I think SPIF is a little less competitive because money is allocated to certain areas. For NOF, we do 2 rounds per year, and we get over 300 applications per round. That's what it's been in the past.
Okay.
They slow down a little bit now with COVID and other things, and because we've been doing 2 per year. Do you think that's correct, Mike, that the SPIF is competitive?
Yeah, and SPIF, of course, is limited to the, you know, to its own geographic area as well, right? To the specific TIF district in which it's in. So, you know, it may just depend on the geography of the applicant.
And one more thing to Bill's question. So it is competitive across the QIA, but we do try to make sure that there are good projects, you know, in every area.
Okay. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that this information goes out in an email as well, this presentation, so it will not be lost. I just remember again that April 9th deadline. Okay, how about that purple color? Department updates. Dion, I found out about this today. And
Oh, no.
No,
I am on the
I
line.
should have known earlier, but that's my mistake. But if you don't mind, it seems like a really great program. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I have been sharing out Main Streets Now virtual conference to many of the Invest Southwest corridor managers, but I do want to open it up to the city planners. You guys are also welcome to attend. Every year, the National Main Street Center hosts a virtual conference, a national conference, and this year it will be virtual. It is taking place April 12th through the 14th. You will definitely hear from local decision makers and grassroots advocates that are committed to improving the local economy and the quality of life in their commercial districts. Commissioner Cox is speaking. There are a number of, I think, really great subject matter experts in the field of economic development that are speaking at the conference. This year, our focus or our programming is really around a number of major themes, including recovery and resilience, as you have listed here, equity and inclusion, and small businesses and entrepreneurship. In fact, we have a day that's dedicated to small businesses on the second day of the conference. I will drop our link in the chat where you can definitely take a look at the full conference schedule here. If individuals are interested in attending from the community level, please reach out to Nadia Henriquez, because I have shared with her a code that she can share to interested stakeholders as well as small businesses that would like to attend the conference. So again, I'm asking you to reach out directly to Nadia, and then Nadia will coordinate with me. If you guys have any additional questions, you can also just ask me right now while I'm on the line, but please don't hesitate to send me a quick note via email if you have questions. I will again drop my contact information in the chat, as well as the full conference schedule in the chat. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present to the group.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, hearing no questions. Nadia, I wanted to offer an opportunity if you had anything you wanted to share, just specifically related to the Corridor Manager Program, or just anything else that.
Sure. In terms of the corridor, we are continuing with a survey that we are administering in the community, and we have about 274 responses. Well, we had 308, but there's if you reply that you're not in the area that the boundary within the boundaries, it doesn't let you continue answering the survey. So we have discount subtracting those no, I don't live in the area, we have about 274. So we're going to continue this week with that, and then come up with the statistics that we can share with you guys. Apart from that, we started working with Chicago Cares, thanks to the introduction that Main Street did to the corridors. And so we have scheduled cleaning for North Avenue. And of course, the alderman asked me to include some other streets. So we're gonna do that too. So it's North Avenue, the corridor, then Division Street, Grand Avenue, and Pulaski. So we're concentrating on those four between March and April. And so the links are available, and I can share that with you, Mike, to see if any of our people from our city want to participate and volunteer. They can join through the Chicago Cares page.
Yeah, and what date is that again?
Well, there's different days. So I know the first one is March 28th and 29th. But I can send you all the links so you can. Yeah, please, and then there's April, then different dates in April.
Okay. Thank you.
And let me see if I have something else. That's that's pretty much about it.
Thanks, Nadia. I
This
appreciate it.
point apart from the RFP, which is the main.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Hopefully, a moment you've all been waiting for.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry. Can I just remember
Yeah, go ahead.
something? Tomorrow I will be live with Alderman Maldonado on his Facebook page. So we're just going to have an interview about the corridor, the role of the corridor manager, and then obviously we're going to invite people to do the cleaning. And we're just going to concentrate on that. We're not going to talk too much about the RFP. Because we're waiting for more information, more concrete information before we actually do a press conference. So.
Okay. Thanks again. All right, let's. So I'm glad. I'm glad that we can get to the RFP now because I do want to spend a decent amount of time discussing kind of where we're at since we last met. And where we're going. Second here. Okay. So, it's always a good reminder that, what we're trying to do is shape a vision for, a future development that developers are going to bring to the table here at North and Pulaski. And that, the things we ask for essentially are the things we get. And that's been demonstrated, in the responses to date to the RFPs that have come back. And I just want to quickly review kind of what we discussed last time when we met earlier in March. In that, what is discussed in our meetings and what has been discussed, and like the kind of clear vision that you've staked out, that language will be included, in the RFP itself to ensure that the developers who respond and are chosen, meet the community's goals and objectives. And again, I last time we met, I had kind of put some example language from the Laramie RFP on the screen, and just wanted to highlight those again in terms of what these are the economic priorities: preserving existing assets, jobs for local residents, strengthening sense of community, affordable housing, et cetera, and then kind of the social priorities as well: the creating a center for arts and culture and entertainment, and integrating the community in the development. Again, these will be tailored to the North Avenue corridor, but I just want to again show that this language is not being lost, and it won't be it'll be included. And of course, it's not just within the what we're asking for, but it's also in the evaluation. That's kind of, to me, even more important, that we clearly stake out like what the criteria are for who is selected. And again, we went over this last time, but we want to make sure that the winning respondent, includes ownership stakes and equitable control and decision making within the people of the community, and that they are, Black or Latino, and they have a proven track record of making investments in the community, and they have collaboration support from community organizations, and of course local business support. So again, I think we went through this last time, but it's always good to reiterate it because it really speaks to what we're trying to do. That's different from what was done in the past. We're not waiting for developers to come in, pitch their idea, and then we kind of take what we can get from that for the community. We're starting with a community first approach to saying, this is what the community wants, you go and deliver. And they, so they have to meet our goals instead of the other way around. And of course, our consultants are put together some really great visualizations about the Pioneer Bank itself. And we're in the upcoming, or what we're trying to do, at least both in the RFP and when we have a community meeting such as this, or more broadly coming up, is really inspire everyone, community, the developers, to take a look at this intersection, this neighborhood, this corridor, and make an investment, and make a positive investment. And so, that's really kind of the goal of the RFP more broadly, and I think why your input is so important, because we have to, make sure that investment is tailored to the community's needs. And I think we have a clear sense of that. Again, this is the Pioneer Bank itself, and last time we were here, we talked about, kind of the interior volume of the space, what it could or couldn't be used for, and how you have this really large open space, 18,000 square feet or so, that could be used for the community use, this Latino cultural hub. We think it'd be, excellent space for that. And while you have, kind of more adaptable space above that, 20,000 square feet or so on 2 different levels, for a variety of offices, community uses, and the like. And then, just so everyone is clear with, what's been going on the last 3 weeks, and prior to that as well, I've said this a lot, and I think it bears repeating. The advantage of going now, the time that we have going last, so to speak, is that we've had a lot of time to discuss the community's priorities, and you've provided a community wish list, so to speak, of what you want. So we can, as we're modeling different development scenarios, on DPD with consultants, we're taking those priorities into account. So we said, okay, this is what the community wants. We want a Latino cultural hub within the Pioneer Bank building. Okay, how can we make that work? That's like our first starting point. It wasn't something we had to figure out on our own. We think the banking hall, as I said, is perfect for that. Office spaces and function spaces are great on the upper floors, and the annex building is just it's more adaptable. Could be used for retail, could be used for a lot of different things, but we think a retail would be a fine use there. And I think the real key, I think, is this Pioneer Bank building being an attractor to development, right? It's an amazing structure. It's got it'll excite a lot of interest. But you have this vacant north parcel, which is a blank slate, and you could do anything you want with it. And we know we want to do 100% affordable housing. We know we want to target a unit mix and an amount that is both viable, and it kind of reaches your goals to see a lot basically affordable housing. And we want to make sure that there's a connection between the two buildings, that they speak to one another in the language of architecture and the language of community. So what I need from you guys, because you guys have been great so far in giving me what you guys want to see. But we're going to have a visiting session soon, and what I'm trying to do is kind of generate reference images for that visiting session, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later too. But again, the Pioneer Bank renovation itself is, I listed on the left hand side what we think the general square footages will be, and what will be suitable for all the different uses that we have imagined in there, and we understand the cost too. It's about $13.5 million, and that includes $2.5 million to renovate the interior bank hall and build it out for some sort of community space or cultural hub, if you will. So, the department is confident that we can absorb those costs and cover them, provided that a developer comes in and brings some equity and some revenue to the table. That being said, I don't really want to get into that so much, because I think that's a settled question for the department. We can do it. Well, what I want to do is inspire you and everyone else who's going to see this with images, and see if that if they speak to you, and if they kind of meet the goal kind of you're basically. What are you imagining in this space, and do these images reflect that? These are some quotes from the internet, and I appreciate everyone's opinion. If you think this sort of fits what you had envisioned.
Hello, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Venus Jackson from Nova Neighbor Program Coordinator. I looked on my calendar, and it seemed like, are we going to have a meeting every Monday with you?
No.
Oh, okay. So we do have one set up for next Monday, right?
No, we don't.
We don't? Oh, okay. Okay, it's on my calendar. Okay, I just wanted to be clear about what we're going to be meeting weekly from this out.
No, I wasn't planning on it, but I'll get into the meeting going forward towards the end of the presentation. But
Okay,
again, back to my original question, what I tried to find were images of, we talked about a theater, a small black box theater and a larger theater. I found a couple of images of that. These are, I think, examples of community hubs, office space, co-working space, sort of a more community center here in the lower left that I found. I tried to find examples of ones in historic buildings with high ceilings and big windows to sort of that kind of replicate the interior of the Pioneer Bank building. But again, if these don't speak to the community and their desires, then I'm happy to change them. You know, I really think that would be a great way for you all to kind of assist in kind of making the visiting session something that people can connect to.
Yeah, Mike, you know, it would be good to have some images of, we put out the survey, right? And we specifically asked the community what would they like to see in the main hall, right? And, you know, we put the library, Latino Theater Alliance, and other was part of how we structured the question. And so I guess to say that if you could put some images of a library, that would be awesome as well.
Mike, I don't know if you have an update on, I don't know if that, I believe there were some discussions that you guys had with the library, Chicago Library?
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, we have had some discussions with the library. Right now, their participation, I would say, is up in the air. They have expressed interest in moving their current location just to the west. The geography of that, like where they want to be, right, is still kind of an open question. I think if they're doing a larger space, I'm not sure that they could or would want to choose the Pioneer Bank building itself. They could maybe do something in the new build. From what I understand from them, they're looking at locations further to the north. But I don't know what I'm not clear about, what I asked them about my last email to them is, does that mean they want two regional branches, one for the north and one kind of north in Pulaski, or are they going to try to consolidate them into one branch? So, like I think a library component is something that we'd like to pursue, and I have been pursuing that with the folks from the public library themselves, and so is our commissioner. It's just a matter of making sure both of our departmental goals align with, and that we can. They feel like they can, they have a space that they can use in the development, and it's.
I've talked to the regional, the gentleman who runs this region, and he talked about the fact that they just completed the Legler branch of the library on Madison and Pulaski around there. And, the concept of, fixing up and rehabbing an older building, similar to what they did with the Legler branch, is exciting for him. They want to move the North Pulaski Library because it's such a small space. They have a new commissioner. So they indicated the regional, I'm going to get his name later, but the regional director of this area, like Area 8, he did indicate was very interested in the concept of the library in the Pioneer Bank. So just so you guys know, and it's important for us to all remember, like I said, we put out this survey, and we are trying to complete something that the community wants, right? The community envisions. And so if you could work those into the renderings, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. No, I think we've probably been talking to the same person. And, I think what is likely, there'll be renters no matter what, right? So, we could write into the RFP language to the effect of, hey, the library is interested in moving their branch. This is contact information. You know, if you are responding, know that this is a priority, and you know you should reach out to them and see how best to incorporate them into the redevelopment.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
excuse me. It's Paul Roldan.
sure.
Do you know what size the current library is on North Avenue that they consider small? And
I think
what
it's under. Yeah, I think it's like 8 to 10,000 square. It's somewhere around 8,000 square feet, I think.
Okay, and what do they consider appropriate for a larger branch, you know, that they want to move to?
I don't want to tread too much into like fact here because I'm getting it secondhand. I don't work for the library, but I think they're talking about like that 18,000 square feet, 15 to 18, maybe 15 to 20 is something that they would.
So that's
a
about
little bit larger for them.
That's about half of the square footage in the Pioneer Bank building. So that would take up quite a bit of the building itself.
Yeah.
So
For certain it would.
Then what the community priorities are for the things that they'd like to see in that building.
For certain. No, I don't disagree. But I guess why I'm hesitant is that I don't speak for the library themselves. You know, I speak for DPD. So, you know, I don't want to say yes, they're coming or yes, they're not, because I can't make that decision.
And if I may, Mike, I think that's really the spirit of the RFP, is to write these in a way that, you know, allows developers to kind of draw these connections between community priorities and what's feasible from their perspective. And so I think to Mike's earlier point, we can continue to keep it in play as, you know, one of the elements of a vision. But I think the bigger idea here, and one that we're kind of looking to this group to help us prepare for as we're working for the visioning workshop, is how do we talk about the library along with these other uses that you kind of see on the screen? What are the different ways that we can help folks who maybe aren't as in tune with development, you know, vision for how the banking hall could be used, right? And I think for us, and I'm hoping that this is an aligned goal with the roundtable, is that a successful kind of takeaway from the visioning workshop is that we do have this idea that the banking hall or the bank building could be, you know, a kind of center of Latino culture for the community. What that looks like, I think, you know, we put all the options on the table and let developers essentially kind of work through that as part of their responses. So if that's something, you know, we can all kind of agree on, then we can figure out how to have the conversation with kind of the larger subset of the community.
All right. So we can kind of ruminate over that a bit, and I'm, you know, we're happy to jump in and around, but I want to kind of move forward to the affordable housing component, because we're also looking for input there, the same input that Gerardo just mentioned, the idea of kind of getting consensus here with what this will be and how best to describe it. So I think since we last spoke, you know, we had shown you some smaller options in terms of unit count. You know, what you see on the screen is what our consultants model. This is a 90 unit option. This is kind of trying to maximize the available units on the site. You know, what we're going to do is basically pursue this option. I think we heard pretty clearly last week that the idea from you all is to make sure you ask for what you want, even if it's really big, and you know, you'd rather fall short than not ask for what you want and not get it. So this is a you know, the 90 unit option for the site. And again, this is something that DPD thinks if we extend the TIF to this area and we, you know, layer in the appropriate amount of financing, we could make this work. It's obviously it's up to the developer to respond with this large of a program, but we wanted to sort of model this and show you that this is kind of what we're going to try to discuss. Not we're going to try to what we're going to ask for in the RFP. The question again, and it speaks to this question again about like reference images, is what we want to do is, in the visioning session, is create different models for this 90 unit option, right? To show how it can be fit on this vacant site in different ways, where that means increasing the height in some areas and decreasing the height in other areas of the building, or just shifting the massing around the site is an open question. And what I want to show you, just in means of example, is two other models. The one on the left was actually a 70 some odd unit model that we've created. But why I highlighted it is because it has like a stepped feature, like a kind of a terraced or step feature that we could do more of if that's something that's like visually appealing to everyone in this group. In essence, we could create like a stepped approach to the design. And then the other one was I think a model you've seen before. We'd probably have to add another story or two onto this to reach the unit count. But the idea is more of like a small plazas and an interconnected building that has more indentations and cuts in the facade. Again, I get these images speak to you, or do they? Would you think they'd speak to the community? And two, are there design components in these images that you'd want to see fleshed out a little bit more in advance of a visioning workshop? I guess those are my two questions.
I'll give my opinion. This is Bill from Nobel Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the second one. Let's look at the second one. What I'm don't like about this particular design is that it looks like a lot of like dead spaces in between these massings. So it's like, like almost like little gangways. I don't know. It just feels like a dead space. I kind of like the building up to the street line, and something that's connected to the Pioneer building as opposed to a alleyway. There's an alleyway right there. And is this the first massing or the second massing right there?
This is the 90 unit one. So this is like we had basically said, okay, what would the site need to look like to accommodate 90 units, and or something, depending on how the units are, size of units. And that's, so this is the base of the one we're going to work off of, and then try to pinch and pull and create alternatives to this.
And so let me ask, does this, when we talked about it being connected to the Pioneer Bank part, is that literally connected, or just like, in general connected? Like, can you walk out of the back of the 4000 West North Avenue building and go into this open plaza? Is that what's happening there?
Yeah, no.
If I may, Mike, I don't know that we've resolved that yet, but I think what I'm hearing is that there's a preference for that. And if that's the case, as we're kind of working to develop these, that's something we can, work a little bit, work to achieving. So is that what I'm hearing, Bill?
What I like is the open plaza is wonderful, but it would be great to have like the 4000 West North Avenue connected to that plaza. You know what I mean? Like both buildings, meet up at this plaza.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that does. Yeah, that's something we've been discussing, I think, but not like Gerardo's point, not in depth. Like, we the alley can be vacated, and it probably should be. And the backside of this building is not landmarked, so you can open it up. And so maybe the idea would be to do that with this sort of plaza idea. And again, these reference images are things I pulled. Do they speak to you? Is it something that makes sense? That could be a way to connect it without making a physical connection. Is that better or worse than creating a physical connection? and moving the plaza someplace else. These are still just active design questions that we are trying to resolve, and that's, your input is appreciated.
Yeah, I think that's connecting the two buildings in some sort of way, either connecting them, like physically connecting them, or a plaza that is kind of like the in between, the transition between the two buildings would be beautiful.
Yeah, and the idea of building out community space within the RFP is like something that's, I think, been a priority across the city in all the different corridors that we've done. The idea of an outdoor gathering space is I think is important for creating like a community hub.
Yeah, I think that last time we met, it was we wanted to have as much affordable housing as that we can get, and there was some sense that we have to build it all the way up to the lot lines. But what you're showing us here is that we could still have that public space and still have the maximum amount of affordable housing that we can get, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But I would say that the second massing of like these kind of pods, they look like, that I'm not into that as much. I don't know what those, you see those in between spaces, where what would those be? It looks like it would just be like dead space.
Yeah, I think they'd be building entryways like mini plazas, but yeah, that feedback is like really good. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay. So yeah, again, just circling back to these priorities, I welcome any input you guys receive, not just today, but leading up to the visioning workshop, in terms of if you know of a particularly good project and you have images to share of that kind of meet these goals, please send it my way, because I really like to make sure that people we're at the meeting connect with these images that are being shown, because otherwise it's just hard to build consensus and even build a dialogue around this, because we want this to be a discussion. And to that end, let's just briefly in the last 15 minutes or so talk about the actual visioning workshop. So we have it scheduled for Monday, April 5th. The time is TBD. I know the preference would be sometime in the afternoon or so to make sure enough people can attend. So the general outline of the meetings, as they've been done in different corridors, and I think done successfully in different corridors, I should say, is to kind of like stake out what the RFP is. And this is for people who haven't been initiated with it yet. And you guys all know we've done that before. We've done that a bunch of different times. But and then from there, I think we have the advantage of showing not just what the RFP is, but how it's been successful. And that's kind of item 2 in the agenda. And then we can go over the corridor, discuss the Pioneer Bank, why it's important, why we selected it, why it's an inspiring place to start, and talk about our engagement to date. So really, the right-hand column, items 6 through 9, is kind of the meat of the presentation and where I want to spend the most time, because that's the most have the most discussion points. So I think there's not going to be much physically done to the outside of the Pioneer Bank building. 1, because it's landmarked, and 2, because it really is what it is. So I think that's an opportunity for us to sort of share that vision that we've created here in the last few months, and try to inspire folks to see that as well, and get buy-in and get discussion and maybe get some counterpoints. But either way, we want to make sure that we show what that vision is and how it can be, and that it is achievable. And then I think a big part of the discussion will then be item 7, that is this building here, right? Showing different designs, showing what it could look like, different uses, different, again, reference images to see, how it could fit within the context of the site. And then what we usually do is break out into smaller groups to discuss that in more detail, then come back together and have a group discussion. And the more time we can lead leave for items, 7 through 9, the better. We would generally have 30 to 45 minutes. If we, for an hour and a half long meeting, I'd like to include as much of that 45 minutes, if not an hour, as possible, because, that is where the consensus is built, and that's what we need to spend most of our time on. And just so this isn't just words on a screen, one of my colleagues did share with me a presentation she did down in Roseland. And just to give you a sense, I wanted to highlight some slides that they used, and mostly in the items 6 through 9, the visioning, the different design ideas, and kind of how the breakout sessions are structured, so that guys could see it in advance, so you kind of know what we're getting into. So generally, the goals of the meeting have and always been to get input from the community and determine priorities. In this case, we have our priorities. You guys have done great, and you've been really helpful for us in staking out those priorities. So we really want to make sure it's confirm them, and also get priorities for what the final look and feel of the affordable housing piece will be. So then, we like to open up for questions. So we want to make sure that people have opportunities to speak. It's not just us speaking the whole time. So we like to ask questions. How do people envision this, the future of the corridor, and usually done via chat function or a poll. So we'll probably be doing that. And again, these are again reference images that a previous presentation had found for their specific corridors. These are tailored to what that community had already asked for. Healthy food, incubator space, residential community space, health and wellness, and active ground floor uses. And again, these images spoke to their needs. So again, what I'm looking for are similar images that can speak to our needs. And you kind of see that there. And again, these are walked through during the meeting. And I like the one on the left so much I pulled it for ours, because I think it was a great idea of community space. But and then there's also design reference images. So again, if there are particular designs that you all have seen in similar affordable housing projects and want to send my way, please do so, because it'll help us create a design that's preferred for the community. So these are some that they had found for this. And then again, so this is a real, the meat of it. So in this case, they're looking at the specific site and they're saying, okay, these are 3 different scenarios that could work. There's usually because the massing, as we've seen, and a site plan. And this shows like an L-shaped structure. This shows the simple, I guess, a capital L and a lowercase L structure, and et cetera. And here's one that this is a different site, but this is just again showing that you were playing with alternatives or playing with design, and just trying to see, hey, where do your preferences lie, and are there components in A that look good, and components in B, and if so, can we combine them and make that into one whole? Then that's basically what we want to know. And I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I do kind of want to get through this. The breakout groups are usually scheduled for 30 minutes. I like to do it longer if we can. Our consultant team and myself and colleagues will facilitate them. And again, we're just trying to summarize what we've seen and get a discussion together about what preferences would be, and then we kind of summarize that at the end. But these are some of the questions that we ask. Given what's shown, what are your priorities for the site? Do you have a preferred scale or program of the building? Is there anything you would change? What's missing? Those are really key questions, right? We don't want to assume we have it all together. We want to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible. And then we try to rank it and then come up with the top choice. So for us doing this kind of later in the process, RFP is due on April 21st. We have to make sure that we have a pretty strong consensus around this at the end of the meeting. Otherwise, we won't have time to complete the work and ask the question to the development community and to the community at large. Can you deliver? So I really want to make sure that we spend a lot of time on building consensus and discussing kind of the vision. But that's kind of how it's generally done. If you have any questions about that, I can answer them now or any time leading up to the meeting.
So, Mike, this is Paul Roldan again. Is this a virtual meeting or an actual?
Yeah, it'll have to be done virtually. So kind of as you see it on the screen, this is what you'd see. The design itself and our consultants will kind of walk you through why they made certain decisions and why they didn't, and like options A, B, and C, and then there'll be opportunities for polls and discussion during this period, and then during the breakout sessions, and then afterwards.
Yeah,
Mike?
virtual is better. I think you avoid fist fights.
Mike, one question.
Yep.
Will you be able to have a translation into Spanish?
I don't know. We've done that when the developers come back with their proposals, which is usually a larger community meeting because there's definitely more interest because it's something really, there's something real to discuss. I think we've had translation for those meetings, but we haven't. I don't think we've had translation in the visioning workshops ever. Have we?
We have, yeah, in communities where it's necessary for sure. And so just for everyone on this line's reference, this is kind of a structural issue the department's trying to address because we really haven't had a budget for translation services at public meetings. So I think the short answer is if folks think that it's something we need, we'll make sure to provide it. It'll either be one of our own bilingual staff or, we'll also look into the status of some of that funding that we've been trying to allocate for translation. But the long and short of it is, if it's something, the roundtable things we need for the visioning workshop, we'll figure out a way to make it happen.
I have a question, Mike.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not sure if other groups in other corridors have done this, but we have, as Nadia said, we've commissioned this community survey. We have about 274 respondents. I know that sometimes when we put out for these community meetings, you might get a small amount of people that come. So I'm gonna ask straightforward: how will our community survey be integrated into what the community wants as part of these visioning meetings?
So I'd appreciate the results of the survey before the visioning meeting, and I kind of put the agenda or my rough outline of how I think it will go here. Item 5, that kind of how do we get here question. I think it's be a great opportunity, and even if not, you want to take the lead on that, it's up to you. But I'm happy to do it as well, to share the results of the survey, and or even in item 6, right? And share the results of the survey and discuss them, and basically see how close we've gotten so far and what else we need to add. But we definitely need to have that survey result sort of back before the 5th. Not to say that you can't comment after that, but the more information we get, the better.
Yeah, that sounds good, because I think we need to have that information to represent the community, like by proxy, essentially, right? By proxy for those that can't make it. So
I don't.
And two, just to deal with any conflicts that arise, if there's deliverables that the community wants and that they're not deliverables that the DPD or the developers can make, that needs to be said as soon as possible.
Yeah, I don't disagree. If it's something that's not, feasible in the meeting, I think we could be fairly upfront about that. I say fairly because we don't want to make this isn't meant to be contentious. Right now we're still open and listening. Again, I think the only issue we have is time. We want to make, I don't think, I think, again, to your all credit, I think we've done a great job in kind of staking out a clear vision already. And I think one that's probably, I want to speak for the community, but I think one would be broadly supported. But we need to confirm that, and if there are conflicts, we'll need to address them in short order.
And then last but not least, I have to go. But does the RFP go out after this meeting, or it will already be done by this meeting?
No, it won't be done. No.
Okay.
It won't go out immediately after. It'll go out on the. I'm going to go up to the last slide here. 21st. So,
Okay.
you know, it's a quick, yeah, it's a pretty tight turnaround for our consultants to put together the final rendering package, but we can still incorporate the comments from the meeting and those items before the 21st. So,
Okay, fantastic.
all right.
I have a question. Am I on speaker?
Yeah.
Have you decided on a time for April 5th?
No, I was going to ask, you know, I was thinking, you know, I have to look at everyone's schedule like internally so that we have enough coverage in the meeting. I was imagining 3 o'clock. That was kind of where I was going to start from, and see where if that was doable.
Okay.
But I know you talked about getting a flyer out, Nadia,
Uh-huh.
and my next step after this meeting was to go see, look at the calendar, see what times were available, and try to pin down a time, and then at very least probably have one, you know, to you by tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds good.
Just to throw this out there, because I gotta go for real this time. Just let's think about working families. Let's think about the youth when it comes to time.
No, I hear you. Yeah, you brought that up last time. That's why I want to make sure it was later in the afternoon for everyone, for at least, you know, I know people work, but so yeah, it can be tough. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'm happy if you guys are happy.
So far, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's any questions you have, as always, I am available. So, and I'll send this email out to everyone with the summary of the meeting and the presentation, so y'all can see it if you have any questions. Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.